How many times have we gotten a writing curriculum or training on writing, and then we get back to our classroom and they don't actually give us the time we need to implement it? I feel like writing every single year has become less and less prioritized, and so it's gotten to the point where sometimes they forget to even include it on our schedule. A lot of times they bulk it in as ELA and an ELA block, when in reality they really want us to teach reading. One of the key things that I've taken away from trainings with administrators recently is that they really want us to incorporate writing into other subject areas, which seems like a great idea because writing does naturally happen in every subject area. You write about science, social studies, you explain your answers in math, and of course there's writing and reading. However, we can't actually teach the writing skills unless we really do lessons on writing. So even if we are incorporating it into the other subject areas, we do need some time to do actual lessons. And that's where Writer's Workshop comes in, or mini lessons. We really need the time to do those things. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to be able to convince your principal or your district to give you more time. So in this video, we're going over how you can find time or fit writing into a really short schedule. We'll be focusing a lot on 30-minute writing blocks because a lot of people have told me that that is the time that they have. We'll also be focusing on, if 30-minute writing blocks don't work for you, how to move around your schedule and kind of mold your schedule to make it so that you can fit in 45-minute writing blocks less often. So we'll talk about all of that in this video today. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, if you're completely new here, please take a moment to subscribe. I am an upper elementary teacher and I love sharing ideas on how I make things work in the classroom when they're very difficult to fit in, like writing in 30 minutes. Before we get on to the video, let me know in the comments how long you have to teach writing each week or each day. I'm really curious to hear what struggles and situations teachers are dealing with so that I can keep tailoring my videos to you. Okay, so let's look at what a 30-minute writing block would look like, and then we'll talk about how to really optimize this to make sure that it works. And then after that, we'll talk about how to make it work if the 30-minute writing block is just too crammed for you, which I've found it to be in many situations where 45 minutes to 60 minutes is way better, and I've had to move things around to make that happen. So we start with our 10 to 15-minute mini lesson. Okay, one of my biggest strategies here is that you need to only be teaching one very basic skill. You would be better to be at the 10-minute mark, especially because you're going to have some transition time. So from that 10 to 15-minute mini lesson where you're only teaching one skill. So I'm talking about if you're doing introduction paragraphs, that's not enough time to teach 3 different things: a lead, the thesis, and the connecting sentences. That's not enough time. So you're going to have to split that up into one day for the lead, one day for the thesis, one day for the connecting sentences. So you're going to have to split things up really small, which is going to take a long time for you to finish a writing piece, but that's okay because the point is really getting those skills learned and applied. So from this lesson, you have a 10 to 12-minute student writing time. It's not very long, and that's why it's so important that you have a very short mini lesson, and that mini lesson is only one small skill. So is 10 to 12 minutes enough time for your students to write an entire introduction paragraph? Well, probably not for a lot of your students. However, it is enough time to come up with some ideas for leads and choose one of those leads. Now, when you get to the upper grades, like you're talking about middle school even, or 5th or 6th grade, you might be able to do more in that time, but especially for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, this is going to really need to be split up. Now, you can also do 10 to 15 minutes if you have less time here. So this is kind of taking up your next step. So there's our 30 minutes total. So in this case, our student writing time and our mini lesson are pretty much even. So they're taking up about the same amount of time. I prefer for the mini lesson to be shorter and the student writing time to be longer, and so that's where I would go, but this is a very simple way to look at it. Something else you need to remember is that there's transition time here. So you need to make sure that your transitions are very, very tight if you have only 30 minutes. So if your students are moving desks, if they're getting supplies out, you need to have a system for that in place. For me, what I do is we have everything organized in writing folders and I collect them at the end of writing time. And that way there is no student searching for their writing at the first 5 minutes of their writing time. So before we even start our mini lesson, those folders get passed out. They have the correct supplies on their desk. Then we go straight into the mini lesson and we go straight transition into student writing in less than 1 minute. Now the last piece of this is closure. This is about 1 to 2 minutes. Very small portion, and this is just reviewing what you did for the day. You do not have time for students to share samples, which is unfortunate, but you're saying, hey, today we worked on our lead. You guys did a great job. Tomorrow we're gonna work on our thesis. Super simple, takes less than a minute. Students will clean up and transition to the next subject area. Okay, let's look at what a 15-minute mini lesson actually looks like. 15-minute mini lesson is very short. Again, I want to move it towards the 10-minute, but a few key things are happening. Number one, there can be no distractions or interruptions. That means students are not doing note taking. That's very time consuming and can be very frustrating for certain students. They're actively participating in your model. Number two is students are not raising their hands to ask individual questions. They are working with you to work on whatever you're doing, and any questions they have need to be asked during the student writing time. And number three, they're just not interrupting for any reason. So no hand raising, nothing, okay? Everything that happens during this is super key, so you need to make sure that you've got it completely planned out. If you want more information about that, I'm going to put a video link in the description, and I'll try to put it up here on the video too, because I do a whole video about how to do a mini lesson, and it talks about student engagement and keeping it within that 10 to 15 minutes. So a couple of things that I do to save time are, if I have any examples where I have to draw something, it's either a stick figure or in the case where I really want students to participate, which stick figures aren't really easy to describe, I actually print out a picture from the internet and I prep this beforehand. So I'm going to show you how I would prep a very short 10-minute lesson on character development. So this character development, I've actually got everything pre-planned, which is a time saver, and that way I don't have to stop and think about what I want to write. And I do use student input, but this is kind of a backup for what I really want to put down there, and we'll kind of fill in more as students describe this character. So this is black and white. You can print a color one as well, but super easy. I get this planned the day before or the morning of, and that way I'm not cutting or pasting while students are back with me, because that also will take a lot of time as well, especially when your glue does not work properly, which happens like half the time to me and my glue sticks, or especially the liquid glue. I want to match the student organizer. I keep it very simple because A, it has to be simple if students are going to be working on it in 10 to 15 minutes, and B, it has to be simple if we are working on it in 10 to 15 minutes. So what I'll do is I'll pre-prep it here. Super easy. I'll write my title, character development. This is kind of like a 2 or 3 part depending on the grade level lesson. So this is just going to be our brainstorm, because we actually have to put it into our writing, which is a whole separate lesson. You cannot teach them how to do character development in 10 minutes, but you can walk them through really bite-sized pieces of it. So that's it. That's all I prep. And then when students come back with me or we're working on this, that's when we're filling in these sections. Students are actively engaging, and then they go back to their desk and they draw their character, draw their lines, they do their character development pieces. And in this example, instead of just doing like brown hair, brown eyes, carrying a panda, that's too basic for students, I have examples of actions the character will do. So this is Rose. She stays focused on getting her enclosures cleaned when she helps with the pandas. And it kind of makes it hard. Pandas make it hard for her to finish her job, but she persists and she gets everything cleaned no matter how difficult they are. So it's a lot to go in there, but I just want to mention that because a lot of people do these brainstormings for character development, not necessarily wrong, but not optimal, because we really need to be putting the character actions here. And that saves us time, because when we go into our next lesson and we're talking about putting the actions into our actual story, then we have the actions, they go into our story, and we actually have character development that's more complex than she has brown hair, she is tall. It's not character development. So this is a really great lesson. I can do this in 10 minutes. I get everything set up the day before. That saves us a lot of time. I don't draw anything in front of students because that takes forever and it's kind of a hot mess. If you're an artist, draw it in advance. One of the most common questions I get is, how do I fit in grammar if I'm doing all these really small mini lessons? So how do I actually teach the grammar part of it, because that takes more time? So if you only have 30 minutes, what you want to do is you want to either naturally incorporate the grammar. So maybe in your mini lessons every day for a week, have students identify where punctuation goes as a part of that lesson, but really quick, 1 or 2 times, maybe 3 times, so it fits into that lesson. The other thing you can do is to really plan your grammar lessons out either in between units, or if your students are really struggling with something in particular, just take a break from the writing process, do a grammar mini lesson, and then have them directly use that in the writing process the next few days so they're applying it. So it's totally okay to substitute a lesson for grammar if it's absolutely necessary. But again, with the 30-minute blocks, we have a long unit, which is totally fine. It's better than not having a unit at all. And if 30 minutes is a rush and it just doesn't work for your students, that's totally fine. What I've done in the past is said, you know what, I have an ELA block. It's 90 minutes. Reading always takes up 60, so writing gets 30, but it's not enough. So instead, what I'll do is I'll split it up so that writing gets 50 minutes 3 times a week, and reading gets more time the other 2 days. So Tuesday, Thursday, we have all reading the whole time, and then we have a little less reading Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but it all equals out to be the same amount of time for writing versus reading. We just have it on kind of a block schedule where writing is Monday, Wednesday, Friday for a little bit longer. And this helps a lot because I actually give my students extra time to work on their pieces, and it's just a lot more relaxing than trying to do the 30-minute writing block, even though it's totally possible to do it. Okay, let me know in the comments if you have any questions on writing instruction or fitting it in, or if you have a kind of weird writing block or very short amount of time. Tell me what you're struggling with to try to fit mini lessons and student writing time in to your schedule, and I'll reply with my ideas. We can figure this out. And if this video was super helpful and you need lots more tips about writing, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell, because that'll tell you every time I come out with a new video. And I'm always looking at the comments to see what teachers are struggling with in order to come up with my next topics. So definitely leave me a comment and let me know what you want me to make my next videos about. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.